At Infrastructure Victoria, we want to make sure Victorians are getting the best value and use from our public transport network. The way fares are priced can have a big impact on when, where, and how people choose to travel. Under Victoria's current flat fare system, standard tickets are priced the same whether you travel during the peak or off-peak, and whether you decide to take the train, tram, or bus. We found that flat pricing contributes to a range of unfair and inefficient outcomes, and make recommendations on how fares are set, prices that reflect the mode of travel, prices that reflect the time and place of travel, and improved ticketing to support fare reform. The reforms will make public transport cheaper, fairer, and safer, particularly benefiting those on lower incomes. Variable fares provide incentives for users to spread their travel across different times and transport modes, which will support social distancing as restrictions ease and more people return to work, travel, and study. They will also encourage people back to the city and suburban retail centres as restrictions start to ease, supporting Melbourne's economic recovery. Our modelling shows that by offering different price options depending on when and how people travel, the public transport system can generate around $520 million in additional value for Victorians through more transport pricing options, reduced crowding and congestion, and better environmental outcomes. We developed 3 objectives for our fare reform research. These are making the best use of the public transport network, which speaks to efficiency, equity, and informed choice, which ensures that fares are not so complex as to cause confusion. Public transport fare setting needs to balance multiple outcomes to set the right price. Too little use of public transport results in congested roads and high environmental costs, while too much creates overcrowded and unreliable public transport services as networks struggle to manage demand. The process we use to balance all these costs and benefits is the measurement of the social cost of additional public transport use. This involves measuring the cost of additional public transport trips, such as infrastructure costs, vehicle costs, and operating costs, and then subtracting from this cost the social benefits of public transport, such as reduced road congestion, road fatalities, pollution, and health benefits. The result is an indication of the optimal fare. This approach is similar to that used by the New South Wales pricing regulator, IPART. We recommend Victoria establish a similar advisory body to oversee the setting of fares into the future. We also considered how fares that varied with the social costs and benefits of public transport affected equity, and found that in almost every case, a move to a fare that makes the best use of the public transport system is also a change that is more equitable. Our analysis of the marginal social costs of public transport by mode shows not all modes cost the same to provide, nor do they provide the same benefits. We found that fares should be highest for train use due to its high cost of adding new services, lower for tram use, and lowest for bus due to the low cost of adding new passengers due to infrastructure costs that are low and spare capacity on many services. We also found that modes of public transport are used by different demographics of income earners. Bus services are used disproportionately by those on low incomes, whereas trips on trams and trains are disproportionately made by higher income earners. Variable pricing is therefore more equitable. It also means that those taking long train trips at peak hour are no longer paying the same as those going to the local shop in the middle of the day via bus. We therefore conclude that a flat fare system neither makes the best use of the network or is an equitable method of pricing. Having different fares for different modes means we get better use out of the network we have and provide fairer pricing to users, particularly those on low incomes. Our analysis shows that the social costs of additional public transport use varies not only by mode, but time of day. Additional peak trips cost society more to provide than additional off-peak ones. This shows that commuters are currently overcharged for public transport use in the off-peak periods. We also found that train users travelling against the peak direction should pay the discounted off-peak fare, as this encourages commuters to use train services which are underused even in peak times, while generating significant road congestion benefits from reduced car use in the peak. Our research shows that 60% of people would be willing to shift their time of travel if offered a discount, and that more than half of people travelling to work can shift their time of travel to some degree. Off-peak discounts would also be more equitable, with research showing that those on lower incomes use public transport more in the off-peak and less in the peak. Our analysis has shown that the location of public transport trips matters to appropriately pricing fares. Train trips within Zone 2 are rarely crowded and so are cheap to provide. We are proposing trips entirely within Zone 2 are always priced at the off-peak discount. Trips within Zone 2 are also used disproportionately by those in lower incomes. Further, we found that pre-COVID-19, a majority of transport congestion is experienced in and around the CBD, particularly around the point at which train services enter the City Loop or future Metro Tunnel. Therefore, we are proposing an additional city zone which allows trips that are highly congested and use the most expensive parts of the network to pay a higher fare. Due to COVID-19, CBD trips are likely to be lower for quite some time, and so this new zone should only be introduced when and if crowding and congestion on the train network returns to pre-COVID-19 levels. We modelled the impacts of fares that varied by mode and time and place of travel. We found that up to 71% of public transport users will pay less to travel. Households on lower incomes benefit the most from these reforms, paying 26% less for transport on average. Those who do pay more are likely to benefit from less crowding and congestion, with 30,000 fewer boardings during peak times. In our modelling, off-peak use increased by 100,000 boardings per day, making use of the network when it is most underused. Bus also increased by over 93,000 boardings, making better use of the most underused mode. Overall, public transport increased by 56,000 people on a typical weekday. Meanwhile, car use is also reduced, with over 96,000 fewer car trips per day, removing 78,000 tonnes of greenhouse gas emissions and cutting congestion. Pricing reform may also assist in tackling the challenges of COVID-19, with peak and off-peak fares spreading demand and improving social distancing. Lower fares for bus and tram, as well as on all modes in the off-peak, will also have the effect of reducing the cost of travel for retail, social and entertainment purposes, potentially increasing economic activity. Finally, our report provides a range of recommendations that will make ticketing less confusing, easier to use, and support our fare reform. For more information, see our full report at infrastructurevictoria.com.au/fair move.